appears that in our day and age, people are getting censored. And what I mean by this is that an individual would have something in his mind. They would have certain thoughts and ideas. And if he is to express them, he can receive certain punishment from corporations. And especially if those ideas or thoughts are legal, the moment you express them, you get punishment. And it's not that the public would want to punish you. It's not like the overwhelming amount of people around you would desire that you be punished for saying things that they probably believe themselves. But it's that corporations and activists want to punish you. The best way to express this is to remind ourselves what happened during COVID. So at the peak of the pandemic, when the government measures were at their strongest, I remember going out and talking to various individuals, whether they were taxi drivers or hairstylists, the average Joe, and they would have certain opinions about the government, about the science, and those opinions were legal. Like, you could say them and there was no consequences. I could go into a police station and have those opinions. But if you said them online, on any major public platform, you would lose your account. And in order to function in a society that's developed, you need a social media presence. Because when you want to get a job, they look at your social media. When you want to send your kid to a high school, chances are they may look at his social media as well. So social media status is very important if you want to put food on your table. And since many people don't want to starve to death, they have to obey what the social media social engineers people to say. So again, like certain things that are legal, like misgendering, for instance. Like, this is a huge crime on the internet, and many of you probably agree that misgendering is the worst thing that you can do to a human being in 2024. But it is legal. Like, you can go into a police station in the United States and you can misgender all the polizei there. There are no consequences to you for doing so. However, if you do it on social media, it is a problem. And the question is, like, so what? Right? Like, so what if this is a problem? Because it's a good thing, right? Like, many people will say that. And my point is that one of the things that maybe the left had going on, like they realized this, when they say that sexist jokes normalize sexism. Right? Did you guys remember that? Or racism on the keyboard normalizes racism in real life. So they're thinking that this is the case. But for some reason, they don't think that censorship normalizes censoring. That giving power to certain individuals that don't deserve it is going to make those people abuse the power. And here you have the upcoming cyberpunk utopia where a phone company gets to decide what people can and can't speak on their phones. Like, this is something that would make for a really good cyberpunk scenario, as I mentioned previously. And I also remember when I used this argument in the past that, censoring social media is one thing, but, like, could you imagine when your parents were young, especially if they were from the United States, like, could you imagine back then if the phone company would listen in to your correspondence, or if they would check the mail of your parents to see if what they are saying is okay or not? Because I remember, like, this was the difference between freedom and tyranny. Like, this was something that they would do in the Soviet Union or in Nazi Germany, like checking people's private correspondence. Like, this is ridiculous. America values individual liberty. And in a country that values individual liberty, you have to trust that the average citizen has privacy. Just like the government has privacy. And I'm pretty sure the phone company also has access to privacy. Like, you as an individual don't have access to everything that your phone company does, right? Like, you don't have access to their private records. You don't have access to all the files that they do, right? Because they're a private entity and they have the right to maintain some secrecy. But you don't, apparently. And the first company which apparently started this shit is a company called T-Mobile. And a lot of people say, well, T-Mobile is the company of the poor man anyway. I firmly believe, and it's probably that they're a German subsidiary, like some people said. I haven't fact-checked this, but it doesn't really matter. I generally believe that other phone companies are going to follow suit. I don't think that if this is what people are saying on the internet, and I have no idea if it's the poor man's company or not, But I don't feel like they by themselves decided to come up, especially before the elections, with a modifications in their code of conduct. Which, of course, they push stealthily because they know that the overwhelming amount of people don't agree with this. Because that's the whole fucking point, is how to control and dominate what people think. And if most people would think what they wanted, then there would be no point in this. This is a very fringe, extremist, small part of the human population that wants to have the power to dominate and decide what their fellow human beings get to think, including your mother. So, the way that they start, and this is how censorship usually starts, like people are already used to being censored online. Like whatever you want to use online in 2023, there is censorship. Whether you want to play a video game, there's a code of conduct. Whether you want to use Twitter, there's a code of conduct. You want to use Facebook, code of conduct. This wasn't the case with the phone back in the day. Like back in the day, you could organize an armed robbery over the phone, and that was illegal, of course. And if the government had a court warrant to wiretap your phone, you could go to prison. But what you would never do is you would never pay a fine to the phone company. The phone company was just providing a service. It was a platform. It was like kind of like, those two cops with the string, right? And kids used to play that game. Like the cops with the string aren't responsible for what people are speaking while using them, right? So up until now, it was the idea, it's like, no, it's the government's responsibility to crack down on crime, and phone companies don't censor. Well, it turns out that phone companies now will censor, and you will pay a fine to the phone company if, for example, you want to sell marijuana over the phone. Now, selling marijuana over the phone, again, it's something that in some states, I assume it's a crime, but that should be between the person and the government, not between the person and the phone company. And the second issue is that in order for the phone company to know that you're doing this, it means that they're listening in. So my question is like, okay, in this society where, assuming every phone company would act like T-Mobile, what is the difference between this and what the Nazi Germans wanted to do? Or the Soviet Union? Like, how can you say that America has freedom if every single year, every month, more freedom is taken away? And it's very difficult to notice just how much freedom is taken away unless you compare it to how things were in 2014. Like, remember 2014 internet? And remember, like, the level of creativity that was exploding on the internet, just by the memes and when is the last time you saw a good meme online? Like, something that legitimately made you laugh? You can't really, because there is no creativity. It's like, this is what's allowed, everything else isn't allowed. And, no matter how big the array of things that are allowed is, eventually people run out of ideas. And you'd have to go into what's not allowed in order to make the funny, but you're not allowed to go there. A perfect example is if you look at South Park Season 1, and you can see a lot of jokes that wouldn't fly today, and South Park Season 1 is absolutely hilarious. But my point here is, many people don't understand just how problematic this is, to use the words of my dear friends. It's very problematic because if more phone companies start doing this, then it becomes the norm. If people put up with this, then it becomes the norm. And I think it's already too late. I definitely think more phone companies are going to start doing this shit. And I do think, and it's quite probable, that the US government themselves are asking the phone companies to do this. Because I don't think like one day the people at T-Mobile decided, hey, you know what, like let's start censoring Americans. Let's look into their communications. And I also think that they're going to expand the list of things that you are and aren't allowed to say on the phone. Like sure, it starts with things that are common sense, like, oh, well, phishing, smishing, social engineering. Okay, I guarantee to you that even though they have done this, you're still going to have phishing. Like, I don't know how it works, but every single time they make a law in order to crack down, in this case, it's not even a law. Whenever they make a policy in order to crack down on something bad, that bad thing remains, right? So it's not going to be just phishing. Like, it's going to start like that, and if you disagree, it's like, oh, so you want phishing. But it's going to expand. Probably going to include awful things like racismus, denying the sanctity of some elections, or whatever the fuck. My point is that the concept itself is laughable. Like imagine this, right? If someone is caught waterboarding another person, like that's a crime. Of course it's a crime. And that person should go to prison for what he did after getting a fair and just trial. But he shouldn't pay a fine to the water company. Like, that's ridiculous. That is insane. Like since when are corporations able to find people? Is what I wonder. You know, it's just so fucking bizarre. The concept itself is appalling. And I'm pretty sure there may be other examples where corporations do this, but like it should be limited, not expanded. Let me know what you guys think, and as usual, I will see you in the comment section. Take care.